So let me just give a quick introduction again. My name is Ankur Patel, Director of Advancement of Hindu University of America. And today, as we are in the month of October, which has been proclaimed by many states in the United States as Hindu Heritage Month, we at Hindu University of America are going to partner with VHPA and DCF, Dharma Civilization Foundation, Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, to bring you a virtual conference on the theme of Hindu Dharma, Hindutva, and Hindudvesha. This is going to be many sessions across the rest of the month. And in this webinar, we're going to provide you a preview of the virtual conference, the motivation, the variety of Hindu spiritual leaders, intellectuals, thought leaders, who will carefully explore these terms, their significance, genealogy, and the current challenges they represent. And we're going to set the stage to examine questions such as, what is Hindutva? What is the relationship of Hindutva with Hindu Dharma? What is Hindudvesha? How is it different or similar to Hinduphobia? And many other questions. And joining us today is President of Hindu University of America, Sri Kalyan Vishwanathan, who's been leading the growth of Hindu University of America as the president after a successful 30-year career in information technology. He's a faculty member in HUA's Continuing Education and Certificate Division. He's the one who teaches Orientation to Hindu Studies, which is a course you should enroll in if you want to dig into the deeper questions that we're going to get into here. He studied Advaita Vedanta through 2 decades of association with Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati, the founder of the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam group of institutions. And Kalyanji, it's always a pleasure and an honor to have you with us, and I know our guests are looking forward to it. We have about 60 people joining us so far, and we'll give folks a chance to trickle in. But I'm in Los Angeles. If you want to put in the chat where you are joining us from, it is always exciting to see. We got Kumuji from Boston. We've got Thursam from Dublin. We got people dropping in. Michaela from LA. Welcome, Michaela. Glad to have you on board again. And so if you are joining us, put in the chat so everyone can see where you are joining us from. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Los Angeles and maybe in Honolulu too. Thank you for joining us. And let me give it to Kalyanji to take us into this preview of what Hindu University of America is doing for this next month with Hindu Heritage Month and this virtual conference that we're so proud to invite you to and preview today.
Okay, great. All right, Ankur, thank you so much. Namaste to everybody who has joined this webinar today. I want to provide a little bit of the motivation for why we are doing this conference. And recently I've been having a discussion on motivations with another scholar in London. One of the claims that people make, somewhat legitimately so, is that very often it is not clear why people do what they do, because they don't explicitly say why they are doing what they're doing. They're just doing something, they're saying something. And if you ask the question, why are they doing what they're doing? You have to go into a domain of inferring, guessing, maybe speculating on what the motivations might be. Now, in the Hindu tradition, in writing a text, generally the author used to identify the motivations up front, or in other words, be explicit about the motivations. For example, in any Shastra, you have these 4 parameters, 4 aspects identified up front. In writing a Shastra, you say, this Shastra pertains to this Vishaya. Vishaya means, loosely you can say subject matter. The Shastra deals with the subject matter, Vishaya. Second, it says this Vishaya is being created, put together for a purpose. It has a certain motivation behind it, a purpose. And that purpose is designated as Prayojana. So the Vishaya is being deployed for a Prayojana, it has a purpose. And it is intended for a certain recipient. A recipient meaning a target audience, to use it in contemporary language. One who is qualified to receive that particular Shastra, that particular knowledge, the qualifications, the prerequisite preparation that's required to engage in a particular subject matter, because not everybody can engage in any subject. You require a certain prerequisite preparation, and that is, in Sanskrit it's called adhikarin, one who has the prerequisite preparation to engage in a certain subject matter with a certain purpose in mind. Okay, so Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikarin. And then the fourth element is called Phala. Phala in Sanskrit means the expected outcome, the expected fruits of engaging in a certain conversation, in a certain text, in a certain subject matter. And in fact, typically the text is embedded in a tradition, which means there is a systematized conversation, a way of discoursing about that subject matter within a tradition, a sampradaya. And the text, the teacher, the method of teaching constitute together a discourse which has these four aspects: a Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikarin, and Phala. This is an excellent way of designating why a certain book is being written, a text is being written, or a certain undertaking is being taken up. What is the purpose? Starkly, in contemporary academia and even in the media, nobody says why they are doing what they're doing. It's almost hidden from view. The motivations are hidden from view, and you end up in a place where you have to guess, why are they saying this? What are they saying? And what is their motivation? Now, of course, you end up in a domain of speculating about their motivations. And you may be wrong. A speculation can always be wrong, maybe slightly off target. But that doesn't mean motivations don't exist. Sorry about that. But we end up in a place where we have to guess the motivations. Okay, so I'm just preparing the conversation with a little bit of foundation that there's a way the Hindus, at least the Hindus of the ancient world, the so-called pre-modern world, they were very clear, very explicit, very open and honest about why they were doing something. And if you felt that you didn't have the adhikara, you weren't an adhikarin, or you weren't interested in the subject matter, the vishaya, you're not interested in the motivation or the phala, you didn't have to engage with the subject matter. You can say thank you and pass the text by. Okay, now that is the beginning of the conversation. So now let us get into my PowerPoint, and we will take a look at a few ideas here. So Hindu Dharma, Hindutva Hindudvesha, that's the title of the virtual conference, and this is a preview. Ankur has already mentioned Hindu Heritage Month virtual conference. there'll be panel discussions and lectures where a number of people, several organizations are partnering here together. HUA is also one of the partners, not the main partner. Now, all of us know that this word dismantling has been in the air recently. And the question is, why would someone want to dismantle something? What is their motivation? Right? What is their motivation? So this was the conference, Dismantling Global Hindutva, that took place on September 11th. With the number of people, this is already done, so we're not going to go back and visit it. But this word dismantling has been set in motion. Now, it seems to be a new word, dismantling. But really, the question is it really new? So here is another perspective, a very interesting perspective. This is the New York Times. New York Times presenting two different views on the takeover of Afghanistan by Taliban. And the title, which says Taliban appoint stalwarts to top government posts. Stalwarts. Okay. Of course, here it says another sign, they will not tolerate peaceful dissent in Afghanistan. But they are appointing stalwarts to top government posts. Now, here is another title, Mr. Modi's perilous embrace of Hindu extremists. Okay, so this is Yogi Adityanath, obviously, who is being tagged with the title of Hindu extremist. And the takeover, around the time the Taliban took over in Afghanistan, the stalwarts here, they decided that the main thing they had to focus on is to dismantle global Hindutva. Right? And, if you look at the word dismantling, there are a lot of different connotations. So let's see what they are. Dismantling, deconstructing, that is historicizing and deconstructing, demonizing. This is a case of demonization. He's being painted as some kind of extremist demon, dehumanizing. That is somehow Hindus are not quite human and they need to be dismantled. Disrupting. See, dismantling, when the Sanskrit education was dismantled in India completely by the British, it was a case of dismantling. Right? Disrupting. The education system was disrupted in India. Delegitimizing. In other words, the being Hindu is not quite legitimate. That's the notion here that's embedded in this dismantling. Denigration, a constant denigration, destroying, debilitating, devaluing, and so on. So all of these are cognate with the word dismantling. Okay, there are a cluster of ideas that show up in different places. And we have to recognize that there is a tremendous energy, motivation, intention, purpose, which may be unstated, but quite evident if you really look for it in all of this. Right? Now, let me take another example of this. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. I'm going to share a couple of screens here. So here is an article from the World Health Organization on 7th May 2021, when the COVID-19 Delta virus was most severely affecting India. And all of us know that the media painted it horribly with NPR and other news organizations carrying images of cremations quite shamelessly. But here is the World Health Organization. The Uttar Pradesh state government has initiated house-to-house active case finding of COVID-19 in rural areas. Government teams are moving across so many villages to try and contain the virus amongst a population of 230 million. That's nearly 2/3 of the US population just in one state. Okay, you can read all this. This was in May 2021. Now, let's look at another article in the Times of India. And this article is titled September 25th, 2021. Uttar Pradesh COVID cases down by 99% since peak. In fact, those of you who've been following this, you'll know that the chief ministers, that is Yogi Adityanath's program of trace, test, and treat, has tremendously aided in achieving a measure of control over this virus. Okay, this is what is so. This was reported in the Times of India, which is normally not terribly friendly. Nevertheless, they did it. Now, the point is, in the New York Times, there is going to be no mention of this at all. So, in other words, right, it is the absence of mentioning that Yogi Adityanath did an outstanding job of containing the virus in the state of Uttar Pradesh, a very, very difficult state in which to contain the virus. So it is what they say and what they don't say, what they avoid saying. And the motivation is hidden from view. I mean, they don't say, this is why I'm saying it. I want to dismantle this particular chief minister, and so on. But dismantling has been going on for a long time. So now this places us in a predicament. So our virtual conference is starting off from a perspective that this new phrase has been introduced into the ecosystem. It is designed to galvanize and unify the forces of Hindutva Hinduphobia, while gaslighting and confusing the Hindus worldwide. It is a clarion call for a sustained program of action with pretty violent undertones, because the word dismantle carries the connotation of destroy, deconstruct, and so on. It's not just a forum for some innocuous intellectual discussion. We are at the beginning stages of a campaign. It's going to happen again and again and again. The question is, when someone is seeking to dismantle global Hindutva, are they merely problematizing a phenomenon called Hindutva that they define on their own terms? Or are they really targeting Hindus as a whole in the guise of dismantling something called Hindutva? Are they naming some subsection of the Hindu community who are allegedly Hindutva as per their definitions, and seeking to divide the Hindu community into good Hindus, mostly silent Hindus? Now, what it is to be a good Hindu today is to be silent, never speak up, can be a good Hindu. And bad Hindus who speak up, or are they reserving the right, or are they reserving the right to label any Hindu as Hindutva at their own moment of choosing, with all the consequences thereof? Okay, there's a question, because the motivation is not clear. And see, what seems to be the hidden motivation is anybody can be labeled Hindutva. Anybody can be suspected of being Hindutva. Now, once you load the label Hindutva with a lot of negative connotation, sorry, hold on, something is going on here. Just hold on a second. I don't know what to do now. Why did this happen? Yeah, there you go. Okay. Are they naming some subsection of the Hindus to be Hindutva, which they are going to now target? Of course, they can accuse anybody of being Hindutva, and that's it. You then acquire all the consequences of that. Now, the predicament that this places us Hindus in is, can we talk about Hindutva? Or should we be silent about it? Should we be afraid of talking about the phrase, the word, the label Hindutva? The term Hindutva has now been charged with so much negative meaning, and it has been weaponized by those who wish to harm Hindu Dharma and Hindus worldwide. Okay, because they have loaded that term with, associations such as Nazi, fascist, extremist, fundamentalist, and all manner of negative connotations that represent some kind of active pursuit of violence, which is wholly contrary to the Hindu ethos. Nevertheless, this term has been charged with that negative meaning and weaponized. So it's like an astra now. Once you have charged the label, they can now go and stick that label on anybody, right? And immediately create a petition and invite thousands of people to sign the petition. And it has the potential of really, really ruining people's lives, people's careers. So much so that just in the last few days, people we invited to participate in this conference very apologetically begged not to be included and declined to participate. Okay, so I'm using the word beg, but it is sort of like this. We really would like to participate, but we can't, because being seen to be associated with a conference that has Hindutva in the title poses risks for us. It poses reputational risks for us. It poses career risks for us. A lot of harm could come to us if we are seen to be associated with such a conference. This, in fact, is the success of the dismantling Hindutva program. It's very successful because it peels away the Hindus, and strikes a certain degree of fear, almost terror in their minds, that now you have to distance yourself from the term Hindutva. So the question is, can we talk about it? So this weaponization drives Hindus themselves to sidestep and avoid the term. There are real and perceived consequences to be seen to be associated with the term Hindutva. This is real. And this is the success of their campaign. This is the pala, the outcome of their prayojana, right? So now the question is this: should Hindus allow themselves to be silenced in this way? In other words, who gets to define what the term Hindutva means? Does the term belong to the detractors of Hindu Dharma? Detractors is a very mild word. I could say adversaries of Hindu Dharma. Those who are adversarially situated towards Hindu Dharma, do they get to define what the term Hindutva means? Who owns that term? And if we don't speak up, would we not be silencing ourselves? Okay, this is a question. Because to be silent is to ultimately, fall victim to the campaign. And so that we are very glad, I am personally very glad that many, many Hindus are speaking up. And I also had my own hesitation. Should this conference be held or not? Or should we do what we usually do, which is to sidestep this conversation, sidestep, avoid it, not speak about it, just kind of go about our business as though we don't care about this, right? That's the predicament that this whole thing places us in. And we have chosen to participate in this conference with all that it entails. That brings up the question, what is Hindutva anyway? How does it relate to Hindu Dharma more generally? Is there a single definition of what the term means? Or is there a plurality of ways of understanding it? Now, we should remember in the Hindu world, everything is very, very plural. Nothing gets defined by a single term, and not everybody will agree on a single term or a single definition. There'll be slight disagreements, slight misalignments, slightly adjacent ways of understanding the same thing. That is a characteristic of the Hindu world, and I believe we should all get more and more comfortable with that plurality inherent to the Hindu world. And of course, one of the accusations made against the Hindutva movement is that somehow it is against plurality, which is, in my understanding, is completely false. Okay, Hindutva celebrates the plurality of the Hindu world. The last point, shouldn't Hindus be explaining what the term means? And should we not be clearing up the rampant misconceptions that serve only to gaslight the Hindu community? Gaslight meaning drive them so confused that they don't know what to say to each other anymore about these things. Okay. Now with that, let's look at two models of Hindu Dharma and Hindutva. These are two alternative models. And I'm going to put both up so we can look at it carefully. In one model, Hindu Dharma is a much vaster sphere, subscribed to by a much larger population of people. Whereas Hindutva is a small subset of that population, people who, pursue the Hindutva movement or the Hindutva projects, initiatives, and so on. They constitute a much smaller subset of the world of Hindu Dharma. This is one view. Okay. But here's another view. The Hindutva is in fact, the essence of being Hindu, Hindu Tattva, just like you say samsaritva or kartritva or bhoktitva and so on, which is a quality of being an actor, kartritva, the quality of being an enjoyer, bhoktitva. Similarly, being Hindu, the quality of being, the state of being, the state of expressing that way of being is Hindutva. And here, Hindutva is much more expansive. It is cultural, it is civilizational, it is a value system. For example, you take something like a word or a concept like dharma. Dharma does not belong only to the Hindu world. It's equally subscribed to by Buddha, Jaina, and Sikh, and so on. You take another word like moksha or nirvana, kaivalya. These are all shared terms. You take yoga. Yoga transcends the Hindu world, and is equally legitimate and valid within the Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh worlds, and so on. So here, Hindutva, attempts to describe certain essences, essential characteristics, essential, I might use the word building blocks, essential values that constitute Hindutva, and which are shared by the Dharma traditions more generally. Okay, so this is another definition. And if you think about it, this was the definition Hindutva, the definition of Hindutva that was originally articulated. In fact, within this articulation, this one on the right side, a Christian convert, a Hindu who's converted to Christianity, also exhibits certain Hindutva characteristics, certain values, certain customs, certain traditions. And so does a Muslim, an Indian Muslim who was formerly Hindu, who was converted, exhibits certain Hindutva characteristics, even if very mildly. Okay, so this is a different understanding of Hindutva. And of course, this is the understanding that the adversaries of Hindutva and Hindu Dharma would propose. And, many people who are confused end up in this place. Confused in the sense, people who have not investigated these terms sufficiently, who have not understood the history of these terms, people who have not reflected adequately on these terms. They get easily kind of pigeonholed, boxed into the understanding on the left side. Now, I'm going to share a little bit about my own coming to terms of this particular labels and terminologies. Okay, and I'd like to characterize it as a spectrum. Now, listen, the thing to get is, I am not offering a view from the point of it being a definitive view. I'm offering a perspective, and I want to open up a space of reflection and engagement with these terms. So, if you look at Hindutva as a spectrum, right, the most obvious place that a Hindu finds himself or herself today is, I am a Hindu, but I'm not Hindutva. I am a Hindu, but I'm not Hindutva. I am born in a Hindu family. I practice Hinduism. I go to temples, engage in rituals. I'm not terribly deeply engaged with Hindu texts and traditions or history. I'm not particularly knowledgeable. I'm really a secular Hindu, and I'd like to avoid controversies as much as possible. And I don't want to deal with the term Hindutva. I will avoid the term Hindutva. I will sidestep the term Hindutva. And I just don't want to deal with it because it's too inflammatory, and it's easy. It's safer for me to simply ignore the term Hindutva, but still claim I am a Hindu. I am a Hindu, but I'm not Hindutva. And it is likely that if I'm in that place, I'm not a very vocal person. I don't speak up on any matters related to Hindu Dharma. I don't take stands. I don't take positions. I'm just really passive. This is a large body of the Hindus, really speaking. I was here at one point in time. And in fact, I had two choices. I could move this way, or I could move the other way. Now, let me explain these two, okay? I'm going to start on the left side. Here, you take a position, I am a Hindu and I'm against Hindutva. I'm a Hindu, I'm against Hindutva. Now, the difference between this and this is, I am a Hindu but not Hindutva, means I'm not particularly for or against Hindutva. I just don't know what it is. I don't particularly care about it so much. I may have some unease about it, but I'm not going to bother too much. My life is just fine. I'll ignore it, sidestep it, avoid it. I'm good. I'm good to go. But here, no. I am now an activist of some kind. I am an activist against Hindutva. I am a Hindu. I'm born in a Hindu family, or practice Hinduism. But this attitude of being against Hindutva is often predicated on a profound level of ignorance about Hindu Dharma and authentic Hindu history. Okay, and here there is a vulnerability to get drawn into adversarial narratives about Hindu Dharma, adversarial, anti-Hindu narratives about Hindu Dharma. And you can get easily co-opted by those same adversaries, the enemies of Hindutva. You get co-opted here. Okay, and you end up participating in propaganda against Hindu Dharma. So if you think about many of the organizations coming up today, Hindus against Hindutva, Hindu, you take equality labs, you take many such sadhana and so on. They are moving in this direction. They are co-opting Hindus who are here into moving in this direction. And believe it or not, there was a time in my own life back in the early 90s, I also tended to move in this direction. So there is something about being young, being in your 20s, that makes this move towards the left very attractive. And those of you who are dealing with youngsters in that age group today, you will find that this is a very attractive space for them to move into. And then they start becoming active against Hindutva. Now, it took me a while to move to come back here and move into this in this direction, to become a Hindu who supports Hindutva. And typically, you get here people are actively engaged in a tradition or sampradaya. They become more knowledgeable about Hindu Dharma and Hindu history, especially the way that history has been distorted by Western academia and leftist historians. And you start to become a Hindu who are able to see that Hindu Dharma needs to be protected, needs to be defended, because it's being attacked. And here you find a way of being supportive of Hindu causes. Okay, but you're still a little anxious, a little shy, a little allergic to being identified as Hindutva. Now, I'm a Hindu who supports Hindutva, but please don't call me Hindutva. Please, please, please don't label me Hindutva. Okay, so this is the immediate move to the left, immediate move to the right here. Okay, I'm using left and right, and not necessarily in the sense it needs to be used, but to distinguish the spectrum. Now comes the two extremes. I mean, in this, at least in this spectrum, let's start here. This one is absolutely anti-Hindu, anti-Hindutva. They may say we are anti-Hindutva, but not anti-Hindu, meaning we are neutral towards Hindu. There are many people here. A great example is our wonderful Professor Ananthanand Rambachan, who wants to occupy a space called I am anti-Hindutva, but I'm not anti-Hindu. In fact, I'm a very vocal supporter of Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, but I'm only very anti-Hindutva. Now, there is a saying which goes like this: the man who tries to straddle two sides of a fence is not seated particularly comfortably. Okay, he does not have a good posture, and that is this posture. Anti-Hindutva, but pro-Hindu, but not anti-Hindu, neutral or pro-Hindu. But in reality, if you open the covers, if you kind of look a little deeply, it is fueled by intense anti-Hindu sentiments. And often, these motivations originate from alien ideologies. You kind of become deeply committed to secularism, Christianity, secularist, Christians, Islamist, leftist, communist, and so on. And once you locate yourself in those ideologies, being anti-Hindu and anti-Hindutva comes with the territory. Now you don't need to understand Hindu Dharma at all. You can just go around sticking labels on people and self-righteously believe that you alone possess the truth about the world. And what characterizes all of these ideologies is this extreme self-righteousness. Okay, And the dismantle Hindutva commitment, the dismantle the Hinduism commitment arises in this extreme left space. Now, one would think if you go to the other corner, this is the opposite of that. In fact, that's how the people on the left characterize this position. And here the position is, let's say, the Hindu who is willing to identify as Hindutva. Look, I am Hindutva, and let me explain to you what I mean by Hindutva. I don't wish for you to define my Hindutva. You have no right to define my Hindutva. I shall define my Hindutva. And here the Hindus are those who clearly see that Hindu Dharma is under constant attack, constant threat, and are unwilling to remain silent about it. They are willing to speak up and actively engage in protecting Dharma, willing to stand up and put themselves at risk in this Kurukshetra. Now, this is the Hindutva spectrum, okay? But there is one important distinction. The distinction is between the antipathy between the left and the right. In my understanding, there is an aggressor and there is a defender. And this aggressor, who's on the left, who constantly commits aggressions against Hindu Dharma, part of the arsenal of their aggression is to accuse these people of being the aggressive ones. And that mischaracterizes this movement as primarily a move towards defense, towards protection, towards preservation, towards sustenance of Hindu Dharma. So in this spectrum, I'd like to characterize this as a space of evolution. And really speaking, people who in their younger years were moving in this direction could reverse course and move in the opposite direction and end up here. Equally, people who in the younger years moved in this direction could reverse course and move in the other direction. So it's a spectrum of possibilities. And each one of us would have to then identify for ourselves where we belong and where we are headed. Okay, so I noticed that there's a lot of chat activity. We will get to that in just a minute, okay? So now, the posture of defending and protecting Hindu Dharma, such as, for example, you build a fence around a field. See, if Hindu Dharma is a green field, Hindutva is a fence that protects it. This is one way of understanding it, okay? Not the only way, but one way. If Hindu Dharma is the house, Hindutva is the wall that keeps the intruders out. If Hindu Dharma is the body, Hindutva is the skin that protects it from being exposed. The Hindutva as a movement actually strives to protect, preserve, and transmit Hindu Dharma effectively from generation to generation. And it recognizes the danger posed by ideologies that seek nothing less than the destruction of Hindu Dharma in the name of dismantling Hindutva. Now, in this kind of visualization, dismantling the fence, dismantling Hindutva means next step, I want to destroy Hindu Dharma. There's no such thing as I just want to destroy the fence. In fact, I'm pro-Hindu Dharma. Somewhat absurd. Okay, is another way of characterizing. Now, with this, I want to move into the final slide, which is Hindudvesha, Hinduphobia. These are twin terms. They are cognate terms. They mean nearly similar things. Only difference is phobia comes from Greek, and it has an emphasis on fear and horror. Someone who is horrified by spiders has arachnophobia. Okay, and so on. Dvesha, on the other hand, is much more emphatic on dislike, intense hatred, disdain, profound dislike for some phenomena. It's a Sanskrit word. Where they intersect is they do end up creating revulsion and aversion for Hindu Dharma. Okay, so we are going to use the word Hindudvesha in this conference for three reasons. One, that we don't want to conflate the word Hinduphobia with Islamophobia, because they are two very different phenomena. And what is different is nobody really has any fear of Hindu Dharma. In fact, the Hindu Dvesha that is rampant is predicated on a foundation of the near total absence of fear of any consequence for doing what they are doing. Okay, nobody fears Hindu Dharma. Maybe there is a deeper fear and there is a legitimate Hinduphobia, but what's overt and transparent and visible is Dvesha, Hindu Dvesha. And of course, we prefer the word Dvesha because it is Sanskrit, and we want to own the term and not simply follow the Islamophobia term that was established not long ago in the wake of 9/11. Islamophobia, in fact, came into existence after 9/11. The claim was that even though the World Trade Center was brought down in the name of Islam by those who brought it down, what was necessary to promote was no, you can't characterize all Muslims and paint them with the same brush, and if you do, that's an instance of Islamophobia. But in the case of the Hindus, it's very different, because Hindus are not engaged in adversarial relationships with anybody. And that's what makes this a very peculiar phenomenon, really. So we are moving into a conference, so next week, October 16th, Saturday, our first session will be chaired by two panelists, Swami Mitrananda, Swami Sarveshananda from Chennai and Dallas, Hindu Dharma and Hindutva. They will kick off the conference with their opening panel, Understanding Hindutva, Sriram Godbole from Pune and Soumitra Gokhale from New Jersey area. That will be the first day. This is a 2-hour session. So every day will feature a 2-hour session in this virtual conference. And HUA is yielding its weekly webinar space to accommodate this conference. It will start 1 hour earlier, it will start at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time, to accommodate the India-based speakers. So this is day 1, session 1. Then session 1, day 2, we're going to have Dr. Ratan Sharda, Dr. D.K. Hari Kandadai, Hema Kandadai, Jeffrey Armstrong, and Pandit Satish Sharma from London. Jeffrey Armstrong is from Canada. So Hinduism and the Hindutva movement, Christianity, race, and the Hindu world. And we're going to examine 2 of the spaces from where the intense hostility emerges towards the Hindu world. That is day 2, October 17th. Then we go to the following week, session 2, day 1, which is October 23rd. We're going to hear from some great stalwarts from India, Sanjay Dikshit from the Jaipur Dialogues, J. Sai Deepak, who's an extraordinary Supreme Court attorney, making a tremendous name for himself, fighting very high-profile cases, and has now recently written a book on India, that is Bharat. It's a very important book for everybody to read. And then 2 stalwarts, our beloved Professor Kapil Kapoor, a very distinguished career, until recently chairman of the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, and Madhu Kishwar, Dr. Madhu Kishwar from the Center for the Developing Societies in New Delhi. They'll discuss the post-colonial Hindu hangover. Then session 2, day 2, we're going to explore Islam a little bit, Hindu Dvesha and Islam, Sushil Pandit and Rajat Mitra. The challenges faced by Hindus in Islamic regions. Sudha Jagannathan, we didn't get a picture for her, we will put it up there soon. Tahir Gora from Canada. In session 3, October 30th, day 1, we're going to have again a couple of stalwarts from India, Sonal Mansingh, Padma Bhushan, Sonal Mansingh, and Vivek Agnihotri, the arts and culture scene. And then 2 of our friends, David Trolley and Subhash Kak, from the US. And day 2, we are attempting to put this panel together. We are in the process of finalizing. Vicky Shapiro, one of our friends from the Jewish community, our own Dr. Jadi Bakshi, Nikunj Trivedi, and Dr. Ram Vaidya. And session 4, day 1, day 2, November 6th and 7th, TBD. Okay, so that's the presentation. That is the whole seminar for today. And I'll now address myself to some of the Q&As and the chats. Okay.
Yeah, and I dropped links to register for session 1, day 1, and session 1, day 2 next week. So please register and join us, and we'll start taking questions. Right, Kalyanji?
Yeah. Yeah. So anonymous attendee said, "Can we get a real definition?" Yeah. So I think I went about giving a perspective. Okay. I want to dissuade all of you, if I can, that is, from from attempting to define the word Hindutva very precisely, because it is a spectrum. There is a spectrum of meanings. In fact, one can grow in one's Hindutva throughout one's life. That's possible. One can also grow out of Hindutva. All right. So we want to explore in the space of meanings that these labels represent, and clearly we want to make sure there are a diversity of voices represented during the conference. It is important to hear from people across the spectrum. Okay, Arun Gargji is saying, excellent proposition. Any thoughts why Hindu intellects reacting this way? Why this avoidance? Yeah, see, there is definitely a sense that there is a potential for a reputational risk associated with being seen to be close to the term Hindutva. That reputational risk is in fact the success of the dismantling Hindutva movement, because it puts that risk right in front of everybody, right? It's a threat, So intellectuals who occupy the academic space, public intellectual space, and so on, they end up in this ambivalent space called, I am a pro-Hindu, but I am anti-Hindutva. Or at the very least, I am pro-Hindu, but I'm ambivalent about Hindutva. I'm not going to take a position. I'm just going to hem and haw and not really take a definitive position. Okay. And I'll tell you what, I'll let you in on a secret, okay? How do you occupy a space called, I am a pro-Hindu, an active Hindu, I'm a Hindu who speaks up for Hindu Dharma, but I'm not Hindutva? How do you occupy that space? Okay, the way you occupy that space, the easiest way you occupy the space is you turn on Hindutva and start criticizing it yourself, which is a strategy many intellectuals unfortunately take up, and they do a disservice to the to the concept of Hindutva. They end up perhaps avoiding the reputational risk for themselves. Sadly, they do more damage than good in the long run. Let's take up some more questions, please. If you have any more questions, please type it up in the chat window, please. Okay. So this conference is going to unfold over the next 3 weekends for sure, maybe a 4th weekend in November. We invite all of you to attend this and participate in this. And it's probably an effort to shine some light, gain some clarity on a topic which most people want to advise simply to skirt and avoid, just don't talk about it, leave it alone, sidestep it. I mean, this is an instance where we are simply not sidestepping it in the full awareness of what might be in store for us. Any other questions, anybody, please? If you look at the chat window. Just a shell. I didn't understand that. No. Michaela is saying a vague definition of Hindutva could be a preference to Hindu Dharma and ideas. No, Michaela, that's not what we're saying. Okay, I think what we're saying is, see, you have to define what your Hindutva is. See, I'll give you an example, right? My Hindutva, my expression of my Hindu-ness, my Hindutva is to work to establish the Hindu University of America. Okay. Someone else's Hindutva, Hindu-ness, how you express your Hindu tattva or Hindu-ness might be to, to build a Hindu mandir. And you take active interest in building a Hindu mandir. Someone else's Hindutva might be to, teach children about Hindu Dharma. Go to the K through 12 domain and teach them Hindu Dharma. Someone else's Hindutva might be to become a yoga teacher. So, see, what is Hindutva is not any one thing. It's a diffused space of possibilities in which each one of us gets to choose what it is. That's the connotation I'm proposing here, okay? It's just a proposal. I mean, please, what's going to happen is people are going to say, I'm defining it. Okay? I am providing a space of possibilities. Yeah, so being Sattvic is Hindutva. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Short videos. Yeah, we got to do short videos. I agree. Yeah, Hindutva, Zionism, same. It comes from the same source. Extreme animosity and hostility towards the Jewish tradition, equally as the Hindu tradition. Okay. Now, how to move? Where I was moving from the center to the right. So listen. The notion that moving towards the right immediately hurts another is completely false. Okay, I want to go back to the slide I showed you about the fence around the field, the door on your house, the lock on your door, the skin on your body. Is the skin on your body committing an offense? Is it hurting somebody? Is it an act of aggression to have a door in your house, a lock on your door, a fence around the field, the green field? See, the fence around the green field is being reframed as an act of aggression. Against who? The people who want to get into the field. You understand? It's very peculiar. So they're continually successfully reframing and demanding that you tear your own skin off. So your body becomes exposed and you become vulnerable. So Hindus being against Hindutva is tantamount to the body being against its own skin. My perspective. Right? And Hindutva is the consciousness that has now become aware that this Dharma needs protection, needs to be safeguarded. Otherwise, it will become extinct. Extinct how? By increasing secularization, first and foremost. You buy more and more into the ideals of modernity, secularization, leftism, get into culture wars and social justice wars and debates and so on. You're kind of getting caught in some rhetoric, contemporary rhetorics that ultimately don't add enough fundamental value. Yeah. All right, let's take some more questions. Does the ambivalence not amount to letting the opponents define us and succumb to being subservient? Yeah, that is true. Poonam Abhi is asking that question. Yeah, absolutely. That is true. You're making an accurate statement. Prasad Rao Gogineni, did anybody participate? Yeah, people participated. Definitely. Satish Rawal, can we have Hindutva without Hindu Dharma? I think it's hard, okay? It's very hard. Hindutva requires you to understand Hindu Dharma, assimilate it, explore it, learn about it, and it's a lifetime's work to understand Hindu Dharma. Become a Hindu and embrace your Swadharma. As I see it, it's a lifetime's work. So we never get done with that work. Yeah, Atul Shah is talking about something he has done. You should look that up. Thank you for that contribution. Ankur, you can find it if you can, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Tulji.
Yeah. See, the person, what is his name? Shastri, is it? Or, I don't know what the name is. I hear Hindutva only in leftist academia. Yeah, popular media, I showed you at the very beginning. The New York Times article that said, first they said Modi has divided India. Then they said Modi has embraced the left extremist, the extreme right, and so on. So it is very, very prevalent in popular media. Magazines like the New York Times, The Economist, BBC, The Guardian, Washington Post. It's all over the place if you look for it. Okay, Pradeep Narayan is defining. Thank you for your definition. Great conference. Thank you. Yeah, Arun Vijayan, Mr. Savarkar. Yeah, Savarkar's perspective will be picked up next week. We are going to, systematically explore it. There'll be a lot of very thoughtful talks here. I think we can dismiss all of these. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. So there's a lot of good comments. I appreciate it. You're all going to obviously get the, invitations, the communications about the conference, registration links, distribution. You'll get multiple distributions. Please share it with people in your life. In fact, I myself am going to be very eager to listen to Swami Sarveshananda from Chinmaya Mission, as well as Swami Mitrananda, also from Chinmaya Mission. I'm very grateful they joined, because many Swamis and Gurus also exhibit this tendency to sidestep the label Hindutva, unfortunately. And these two were very willing to participate. I'm very grateful for that. Okay, Q&A. Let's see. All right, that is it for today, everybody. And I just wanted to do a little preview for the upcoming conference over the next 3 to 4 weeks, weekends. Please join us. It'll be 2 hours every week. It's going to go from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday. And again, 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday, the following weekend and the following weekend. And potentially a fourth weekend in November 6th and 7th, which we are still working on. All right, great. Great, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. I'm going to sign off now.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We look forward to your continued participation of Hindu University of America. This was a great panel, Kalyanji. Your presentation's always amazing, thought-provoking, and we're going to get more into this week after week. So please do register and participate with Hindu University of America. This is the institution that is necessary for the Hindu population across the world, and we're doing what we can. I know there was a lot of interest in this, and as Kalyanji expanded at the beginning, the motivation on different sides of it. So glad to have you participating and continuing to support Hindu University of America. Thank you. Dhanyavad, everyone.
Namaskar, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.